Hello there, and welcome back to another episode of Marketing Made Easy for HR Consultants with me, Nick Paninsky. As ever, we usually talk about marketing and sales, but sometimes I like to talk to you about personal development, how you can be the best HR consultant that you can be. And that's what today's topic is all about. That's what we're going to be covering is alcohol. We're going to talk about the benefits of giving up because I've done it and I'm feeling awesome. And I wanted to share the message. As I say, I want you to be the best HR consultant you can be. And since I've moved to being a non-alcoholic, life has never been better. And this is potentially something that could change your life. So I wanted to make sure that I shared it with you. That being said, I can't lead a discussion on this. This isn't my area of expertise. So I've got today a guest with us. I have got Kath on to lead the discussion. So Kath, hello. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, Nick. So great to be here, all the way from Melbourne in Australia.
Yes, yeah. It's great that you can join me as well, Kath, because obviously it's nighttime here and it's daytime for you. So full 12-hour difference.
Yeah, full 12 hours into the future here, in Australia.
Yeah, it's always a little bit mind-blowing how you're 12 hours ahead. I'm like, yeah, it's the future.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, thank you for joining us. Give us an introduction to yourself, Kath. Why who are you? What are you doing?
Yeah, great. I always find this question interesting. Who are you? Oh my gosh, it's such a big question, but I guess in the context of our discussion, I am personally someone who has now been living alcohol-free for 5.5 years. And I am also an alcohol mindset coach. So I help support others to change their relationship with alcohol, and particularly, high functioning sort of professional people who know that their relationship with alcohol is holding them back from being probably the best, most productive version of themselves. And, I love that you introduced the podcast with a focus on this, because sometimes you don't know what potential you're actually missing until you take a break from alcohol and see what opens up for you in your life. And for me, that is so prevalent in terms of I thought I was a highly productive person, but it wasn't until I looked at my own relationship with alcohol, which, I'll just give a quick bit of background about that. But I was very much what I would call a binge drinker, an event weekend episodic binge drinker. I wasn't a daily drinker, and sometimes I didn't drink each week. I would take regular breaks from alcohol as well. I'd often have a couple of months away from drinking a year. I was someone who was committed to, really health as well. So I would go to the gym, I would have my green smoothies, I would, do my meditation. But I had this part of my life, this drinking, that was not healthy, that I didn't have an off switch, but that was also very normalized here in Australia as well. So as a 14, 15-year-old, I tried alcohol. I stole some gin from my parents' drinks cabinet. I got drunk with a friend. And then, very quickly, by the time I was 16, I was probably drinking most weekends, drinking excessively, but also being, I guess, told or having it reinforced that being a girl, female who could drink a lot, who could drink with the boys, who had high tolerance, who could stay out late, who also recovered really well from drinking as well. Like, I didn't get bad hangovers, and I didn't really get, get messy drunk, I suppose. And all of that was kind of affirmed to me that you are a really good drinker. So it became a positive part of my identity that I took through my life, I guess. But the other side of that was that my drinking worried me from, early on, because I didn't have an off switch because of the blackout sort of hazy memories that that really worried me. the behavior around just being someone that, wasn't trustworthy, that said things that they regretted, all of those types of things. So, I felt like I was going to grow out of this type of drinking, right? When I get kind of adult and mature,
Yes.
it's funny because in my mid-40s, I was still binge drinking. Now, no, I wasn't binge drinking every week. I was probably having blowouts, 4 to 6 times a year. And a lot of people have said to me, that's not that bad. I mean, that's normal, right? But for me, someone who's committed to, professional and personal growth and development and being kind of the best version of me and aligning to the values of who I want to be, it was eroding all of that. It was holding me back. It was keeping me stuck. And for some reason, I thought, I need to have alcohol in my life. I need to be able to moderate. And it wasn't until a really awful scenario where my 3 children saw me really drunk one night whilst we were on holidays, and thought that I had died pretty much because I fell back and hit my head. And that was the moment for me where I was like, I do not want to be this person anymore. I am going to take an extended break from drinking without a date to go back. I'm going to embrace an alcohol-free lifestyle and see what unfolds. And I had my last drink on the 30th of June, 2019. And here I am, still one day at a time, embracing this lifestyle that has just had such an incredible ripple effect, and one that I never believed I would be leading at, the age of 52. I would never have thought that I would be 5.5 years alcohol free, but here I am. You never know what's really possible in life.
No, it's an amazing achievement. It's a long time of alcohol free, and I think the interesting thing about your story there is it's not dissimilar from my story. I grew up, binge drinking from the age of 16, 17, 18, whatever it was. And then never really drank much at home, on a weeknight or anything. I'd go out and binge drink. And then, I think I turned 40 earlier this year. And I read for me, my catalyst, I didn't have like a blackout drunk session where my kids thought I died or anything along those lines. I just read a book. And that book said, "Why are you drinking?" And I couldn't answer that question. And that was the end of it for me, because alongside with you, where you say that you wanted to be the best version of yourself, and then still you were poisoning yourself every so often. Like I was doing the same thing, and eventually you think to yourself, "Why am I poisoning myself every so often? I don't get it." And it's not just about, when I say poisoning yourself, like people think, "Oh yeah, binge drinking, yeah." But even, well, I guess for me, I would consider alcohol bad. So for me, it's done now. It's over with. So yeah, that's why I refer to it as poison.
Yeah, I mean, yes, and you hear that word poison, you think, oh, what do you mean? Well,
yeah, how melodramatic.
I mean, it's kind of not dramatic. I mean, alcohol is classified as a class 1 carcinogen, along with other substances like asbestos, radiation, tobacco. It's ethanol. It's petrol, right? So
it's petrol. It's the same active ingredient as petrol, the same stuff you put in your car.
Exactly. It is a very addictive drug, and we need to remember that, because culturally and socially it's been so accepted at a subconscious level onto every aspect of society, really. We don't question it. We don't get that messaging about the fact that it's a poison. And if it was put forward now to be approved into our society, it would absolutely get knocked back. So,
immediately. Like I think, when I was reading the book, which you're a student of, This Naked Mind, right? she said in the book, she said alcohol has and will kill more people than every other drug in the world combined. Blew my mind. Couldn't believe it. I was like, Jesus.
Yes. I mean, you know, alcohol is the most destructive drug on the planet, full stop, right? And
people don't know this.
You know, not only do people die, but the violence, the crime that is created,
broken relationships,
exactly. And I just think back in my own life experience, and most of the things that I regret in my life have been when I've been drinking or when other people have been drinking, right? So it has a really insidious effect. And it wasn't until even I stopped drinking that I was able to get a clear perspective on kind of the role that alcohol had played in my life, and understand that it actually, particularly in relationships, I guess, I looked at the relationships, sort of the serious relationships that I'd had over my life, and I could see that alcohol had played a role either in the types of partners that I'd chosen, i.e., I always wanted to be with someone who drank, you know, or enjoyed drinking, right? But then also in how, you know, you might end up breaking up or not in a good place because of what happens when you drink, right? So it's really fascinating the way it can impact all of those choices in your life too.
Yeah. But it's I want to use this word, ubiquitous. It is everywhere in society. It's all over TV. They're advertised on billboards. You know, when was the last time you went to a party as an adult and alcohol wasn't there? Mental. You know, before I gave up alcohol, I would just accept it. Before I read this book, in fact, I would just accept the fact that alcohol was everywhere. And it's just, mind blowing when you think about the realities of it, like the damage it does to you. But yeah, I mean, like, you know, we've covered the big one there. We've gone in, guns blazing. It's a class 1 carcinogen. It's addictive, and it kills more people than everything else in the world. So
that should be enough, right?
That should be enough, but it probably won't. So,
you know, suddenly as humans, we know this stuff, right? But we sometimes think it won't happen to me, or, you know, I'll be okay, or
everyone thinks that.
So it can't be that bad. You know, you give yourself all this messaging to excuse it. But I think some of the other things about alcohol that people may not realize or don't know is that, well, it affects, you know, one of the most important pillars in our health, which is our sleep quality, right? And when you think about that,
let's do some benefits, like, because we've obviously gone in all guns blazing. It causes cancer. It's a poison. It's addictive. So let's dial it back and let's go in with some, benefits that people probably don't realize. So sleep. Let's talk about that, because that's important, right?
Yeah. So sleep is so important, and our REM cycles of sleep are, again, incredibly important to I guess, how we recuperate, how we rest, how we re-energize, how everything comes back into balance after we've been awake. And basically alcohol interrupts our REM sleep. So instead of getting, you know, between 6 and 8 cycles each night, we only get 1 or 2.
Wow.
And if you think about that interruption, if you're having that night after night or week after week, you can imagine that your body is never really at its optimum, right?
It's never realigning to where it should be.
Never realigning. You're never coming back into homeostasis. The brain is very clever as well, and it realizes if there's alcohol in its system, it has to it has to go to detoxifying and getting rid of that toxin first, right?
Right.
So it can't necessarily focus on all the other things that it needs to do. So your immune system can become compromised, right? So you might get...
Wait, so your body focuses on getting rid of the alcohol
Yeah.
immediately and starts putting everything else on the
Yeah,
like secondary list.
Exactly. It doesn't have all the, energy to put into the other stuff, right? Because the other thing about alcohol is, yes, alcohol is a toxin, but once the body starts to break it down, it's converted into acetaldehyde, which mainly happens in the liver. And acetaldehyde is more toxic than alcohol, and can cause cancer by damaging, DNA and stopping cells from repairing damage, right? So the process of breaking down alcohol is even more toxic. Again, it's something that a lot of people don't know. And so even if you just look at something like sleep, the less alcohol you have and the more alcohol-free days that you have, the better quality sleep you get, and the better for your overall health. And often people notice that when they first take a break from drinking, their sleep doesn't improve straight away. And that's because often people have been using alcohol daily, and it suppresses their melatonin, from producing and putting them into natural sleep. Because if you're drinking in an evening, all of a sudden your brain goes, oh, I don't really need to produce melatonin at the levels to naturally put myself to sleep because I am anesthetizing myself with alcohol. So again, it can take the body a while to come back into performing at its kind of natural levels, because alcohol disrupts our whole neurotransmitter and hormonal balance. And when you think about that, yeah, it's huge, the impact that it has. And if you've been drinking for a long period of time, it can take a while to come back into balance. And particularly
this is why you get like 2 or 3 day hangovers when you get a bit older, right?
Totally. I mean, this is all around, we've heard of that concept, anxiety, you feel really low in mood the next day. And again, that's all around what's happening with your neurotransmitters, your brain chemistry. Basically, your cortisol levels get shot up quite high, and then the brain's trying to come back into homeostasis, and it releases a chemical called dynorphin, which is a real downer chemical. And you feel terrible for a few days.
Yeah.
And for people who, I guess, tend to have anxiety or have mental health problems, often they're self-medicating with alcohol because it gives them an initial artificial dopamine high, a buzz. It takes the edge off. But what it's actually doing is it's contributing to the problem even further. So it's like putting petrol onto the fire, and you create this whole negative cycle for yourself.
So, a quick one. So obviously, alcohol is impacting people's sleep. That is a problem because people need their sleep to perform at their best, right? It's not rocket science. I think we all know this. When we don't sleep well, we feel crap the next day, and then we don't perform as well. We're not as productive. So let me ask you something. Obviously, the more the alcohol we consume, the worse our sleep is. But even if you're kind of a 1 glass of wine, half a bottle a night kind of a situation, how badly is that affecting sleep? Because you gave a quote earlier, we're supposed to have 8 REM cycles, but we end up with 1. So what about for an average person, 1 glass, 2 glasses?
Yeah, it affects your sleep regardless, right? So obviously the more you drink, probably the worse you'll feel. But every time you put alcohol into your system, even 1 glass of wine or 1 beer will affect your REM sleep cycle. And for each person that will be slightly different. And I've had clients who haven't drunk for months, and then they decide they'll try having, a drink or two just to see what it feels like. And the thing that they notice more often than not is their sleep.
Yeah, so tired.
Yeah, it becomes, they wake up in the middle of the night again, find it hard to go back to sleep, and they wake up not feeling the same level of, of energy, and feeling refreshed. They feel kind of groggy.
Yeah. I'm totally on board with this because I've not been drinking now for, it's 2 months, give or take today. Which doesn't sound like a lot, but psychologically, I know I'm not going back anyway. So 2 months is irrelevant to me. I'm not counting. But I guess we've talked about sleep. We know that alcohol causes cancer. We know it's a poison. We know it's addictive. We know it fucks up your sleep. So let's go in next. What about your other organs? We're talking here skin. We're talking liver, heart, brain. How does it affect all that stuff? And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously.
I know you're not a doctor, but you are a sleep alcohol coach, so.
No. I mean, generally, people notice when they stop drinking, their skin becomes a lot more hydrated. They get more of a glow. They feel better, and I certainly noticed that in my in my own skin. Their eyes clearer, brighter. Brain fog, disappears, more mental clarity, more focus, productivity, which again is great for someone who is, focused on doing well in their career. Often they'll be like, oh, all of a sudden I realized I had an extra 20 or 30%. And their ability to manage stress becomes better as well. And that's what I've noticed, because your overall brain body chemistry has less stress. When you do have stressful times, you are better able to manage it. And so some of the things that used to feel like they stressed you out feel easier to manage. And I've had some clients say, nothing's changed in my job, but I feel like I'm doing so much better and I'm not sweating the small stuff like I used to. One of the other things that people notice is that it really improves their relationships around them as well, whether that's work or personal. Because when you're feeling better in yourself, it has a ripple effect on the relationships around you, because often when people drink, they become very reactive. The prefrontal cortex in our brain goes on holiday the more we drink. So poor judgment, emotional regulation out the door. So, your inhibitions come down. So, all of those things create a version of us sometimes that makes poor choices.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't surprise me, right? Because at the end of the day, alcohol is a drug. And if you keep taking a drug, it will affect your brain, right? It's going to have to, because that's how drugs work, right? So, if you were smoking marijuana every day, your brain would be affected. If you were taking heroin every day, your brain would be affected. So it's no different it's no different with alcohol, right? So when you say this to me, I can completely believe it, because even if I haven't noticed it.
Exactly. And, obviously the liver is a very important organ in this process. Our liver's amazing. It has an incredible way of detoxifying, of actually, I guess a lot of people don't get liver damage, even if they've drunk a lot. Psoriasis of the liver is not, you can't reverse permanent scarring of the liver. But a lot of people will get a warning, beforehand, that they have maybe developed fatty liver disease or their enzyme levels are up. And if you get to your drinking before you have scarring on your liver, you can reverse it through lifestyle changes, through reducing your drinking, through drinking lots of water, looking after your diet and your health. So it's really important to know that the liver can regenerate, and you can get it back into into a really healthy state, a healthy organ, if you make lifestyle choices before you've had any long-term damage.
Yes. Yeah. I like that. There is a lot of benefits to giving up alcohol. Like, as you're talking through these things, I've been psychologically not that I've not been listening, but I've been ticking these things off in my brain. Like, oh yeah, my skin is clearer. I do think clearer. I am sleeping better. It's and these are things that I don't realize because you just take it for granted. But now that you've said it, I'm like, of course. But certainly the thinking clearer, I did notice that one. But anyway, okay. So I mean, obviously this is an important topic. So if you're listening along and you're thinking, how do I give up alcohol? Alcohol's such a big part of my life. Kath's going to come back to us for part 2. She's going to coach us through how to take those first tentative steps. But I guess before we end today's show, what would be one key takeaway, Kath? What do you think you want people to take away with them from listening to this?
I think the key takeaway is that, any time or day that you can drink less, you're doing a service to your body, right? So sometimes, it may not be that everyone who's listening to this is going to embrace an alcohol-free lifestyle, but you can embrace an alcohol-free day, or you can choose to drink less when you go out on a Friday night. You can choose to go to a party alcohol-free and experiment with it and see what happens. So I would just say, for anyone this has piqued their interest, give it a go, experiment, give your body a break. I used to always think that when I did, just have a day off or a week off or a month off, it would be like my body was breathing a sigh of relief and going, I get a break. So that would be my key takeaway. And if you are interested, pick up This Naked Mind, the book, and have a read and get across the information. There's another great book in the UK written by a guy called William Porter called Alcohol Explained. There are lots of podcasts. Andrew Huberman has done an incredible podcast on alcohol and all the latest science and health risks around alcohol, and he dispels a lot of the information that you hear out there about the benefits of alcohol, because I think red wine and the benefits and all that kind of thing, it isn't a thing. So but those would be my key takeaways.
Yeah, there are no benefits to putting petrol into your body.
No.
Funnily enough. Okay, perfect. Yeah, I love it. So yes, if you're listening along and you're thinking, okay, I'm going to give this a try, certainly perhaps for sober January or whatever they call it, dry January, maybe you'll see some of the changes that Kath's been talking to us about. Certainly worth giving a try anyway, if half of what she's saying is right and all of it is what she's saying is right. So anyway, for those of you listening along at home who want to get in touch with you, Kath, where do they find you?
They can find me at my website, which is thealcoholmindsetcoach.com.
Wow, that's good for SEO purposes, that, from a marketing perspective. If somebody Googles just alcohol mindset coach, first up on both.
Yeah, totally. It's that I did used to work in PR, so
excellent.
It's in my previous job, so there was a bit of time put into the name of the business.
Love it. Okay, excellent. Well, for those of you listening along at home, thank you for listening along. Hopefully You're going to be open-minded to the possibility of giving up alcohol because of the many benefits that Kath's talked to us about today. Yeah, if you want to hear about how you can go about giving up alcohol, part 2 will come up next week when we'll have Kath back on, and she'll be talking to us about how you can give up alcohol. But in the meantime, as ever, get marketing, because without marketing, there's no sales. Without sales, there's no business. So get marketing.